on Leadwood Road. Come on. Hi, Elizabeth from the north of Scotland. Elizabeth would like to know how many litters of cubs will a lion have in its lifetime? Well, Elizabeth, lioness will generally have their first set of cubs at about 4 years old, and they'll continue to breed through till about 12, 13, sometimes even a little bit later than that. And what happens is, let's just say this is a perfect scenario. She would have 4 years or less, give or take. Every 2 years she would have a litter, and obviously this is perfect if the litters aren't killed by lions and whatnot, which is very unusual. But let's say the maximum she could possibly have in her lifetime. So at 6 she would have her second litter, at 8 third, 10 fourth, and then 12 the fifth. So probably a maximum of 5 or 6 litters in her lifetime. Obviously that generally they can have 4 litters, but often those litters are killed and they'll come back into breed.
You can't get that whole tree in the sun.
Okay, like this.
What's wrong with you?
That's good. That's good. A little forward, sorry, slightly forward.
Hello everybody, we're back again. The gremlins continue to trouble us. You were with Brent, you're now with me. There's a rather magnificent sunset going on. Nothing in the way of animals, of course, but we're going to turn towards the sun so you can have a look at it. It's rather beautiful, and the cloudier or smokier the sky is, the more magnificent the sunset seems to be. So we're heading back towards Buffelshoek Dam on the off chance that something's come down to drink there. I would like to know, please, are the children of Dayton Children's Hospital in Ohio watching today? Because we're going to go up towards the dam, and we'll quickly, if Gracie's watching, we'll quickly decide on the name of the hippo. It's got substantially cooler since I last saw you, which wasn't very long ago. And it's always amazed me, and it always used to amaze my guests, how compared to the sort of higher latitudes, as soon as the sun goes down here, it's like a light going off, and it gets dark extremely quickly. So watch that happen. Sun will go down at about, let's say, probably 15, 20 minutes. And after that, it'll get dark very fast. 30 minutes later, it'll be pitch black. A lovely picture from here, Jean-Bray. This will get your artistic blood boiling. Fear not, I will turn you towards the sun shortly. From this very special little viewpoint. Whew. How's that? Just a lovely shot of the sun there. Just going to have a quick listen. My favorite time of the day to stop and listen. I'll tell you what I can hear. Again, it's very subtle sounds this time of the year. Just the odd rattlings testicular. Rustle of the wind. Blue wax bill or two. And every so often you just hear the little sort of clarinet-like call of a drongo dotted about the place. They like to call at this time of the night. And while it's cliched to possibly go on about the sunset, I have to tell you that every night I like to do this, and it just kind of recharges the batteries, and it really does feed the soul. Right, we're going to continue slowly towards Biffle's Hook. Right, a question from Kev in South Wales, in the valleys. Kev, you want to know about birds, and you want to know about the endemic species that we get here. You say out of the nearly 1,000 species that we get in South Africa, how many are endemic to the Kruger? I don't know what the exact number of endemics is, I'm afraid. I think it sits probably between 20 and 30, but there are about, the total bird list for the Kruger National Park sits at about 520 birds. That's including all of the vagrants and that sort of thing. And I think probably about 20 of those are endemic to here, but I couldn't tell you exactly. Lots more endemics obviously the further towards the Western Cape you go and into the more specialized desert habitats. But the habitat that we're in now stretches pretty much all the way north into Zimbabwe and Zambia, and so we share a huge number of species with them. Nice question. I will have to get back to you though on the total number of endemics in the Kruger. I don't think that many. All around I can hear the ubiquitous call of the fork-tailed drongo. They love to call this time of the night or day. And in Texas, your cat loves to leap around in catnip, and you want to know if the big cats have anything like that they like to roll around in. And I've only ever seen leopards rolling around in buffalo dung, and possibly the odd elephant dung. I can't think of anything that drives them quite as wild as catnip, other than fresh meat. So, no, not that I know of, Anne. Very good question. Well, we're just coming up on Biffle's Hook waterhole. In Boston, an interesting question. You want to know, is there, with all the prides of lions that there are in the Kruger Park, is there one that is particularly more vicious than the others, and that will just kill anything and accept other prides? Angela, no, not really, but that said, for example, when there's that documentary that's just come out called, I think it's Brothers of Blood, about a coalition of male lions called the Mapocho, which are 5 young males who, when I initially saw them, and they don't mention this in the documentary, there was a much older male with them, and he seemed to fall by the wayside eventually. But they seem to be far more vicious than anything I'd ever heard of. Mainly because they'd go and if they came across a female, they'd kill her too, which is very abnormal behavior. So in terms of male coalitions, they tend to be what you might term more vicious, although, you know, that's just their way, that's just how they are. So they're not necessarily more vicious. But no, there are no prides that are sort of abnormally vicious, that will get up and specifically kill things that they don't want to eat. Remember, everything out here is a very fine energy balance. And so for an animal like a lion to expend energy killing something, there must be a very good reason, normally. And that reason will normally mean they want to eat something, or they are going to defend territory. So in terms of viciousness, no, I'd say it's pretty standard level of viciousness amongst most of the lions. Might have to stop for another sunset shot. Oh, this is so beautiful. Andre, if you see something you'd like to stop at, just see that blazing ball of red going down now. Yeah. Yep. Around the corner. Hello, Dodie and Beverly in Kentucky. Well, Dodie's not in Kentucky, Beverly's in Kentucky. Dodie, you want to know, does this sort of live drive thing encourage tourists to come out here? Look at that. Well, Dodie, I'd have to say that if that picture there didn't inspire somebody to come out and visit Africa, they'd have to be pretty hard-hearted. Dodie, absolutely. There are definitely people, I've met people just in my short time here. Beverly, I've been doing this for only 4 weeks. You've been watching for 2 weeks, so you've only been watching me doing these drives for 2 weeks. And no, we do work 7 days a week. That is absolutely correct. And normally the cycle is sort of 6 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. So Dodie, yeah. It's one of the huge goals of Wild Earth is to drive tourism to conservation hotspots like this. So absolutely, one of our major objectives is to get people out here and experiencing the wonder that I get to do every day. So 7 days a week, Beverly, is not that much of a trial when you get to look at that sort of thing every single day. We're just going to wait for the last little larval coal to dip below the horizon there. Still a little piece. There it goes. Isn't that amazing? It always astounds me at how fast it disappears. Just stunning. Never get sick of that. tracks of an elephant bull on the road, and a huge little herd of beefaloes lurking here in the roundleaf teak forest. Let's get a little bit of a view for you. How's that, Jean-Bray? Is that right? You can just hear the call of the fork-tailed drongo. I've seen these buffalo here a few times. They seem to like this area. Probably good grasses and some nice shelter provided by the roundleaf teaks, which are the sort of scraggly bushes that they're huddling in between. The old boy chewing his cud. Watch, he's going to bring up another piece of bolus now. There we go. Delicious. Ugh. So glad I'm not a ruminant. So one of the things you learn to look for when you're walking out here, of course, is that color, that black color, which indicates a buffalo. And the only thing out here that really has that much of a jet black color. And also, what you don't notice here, because it's got a bit later, is that there are no oxpeckers calling. So in the middle of the day, normally around a herd like this, you'll get from the oxpeckers, and there's none of that now because they've all left and gone to roost somewhere in the tree hole. And when you're walking, it's a crucial sound to listen to is the oxpeckers. They've got an excellent view of where the sun just went down. I'll just pop along to the waterhole before it gets dark. Skidoo. Skidoo, if that is indeed your name. I don't believe your parents gave that to you, but it is quite an interesting moniker. You want to know why it looks like the sun goes down like a ton of bricks here compared with where you are, perhaps in the northern hemisphere. It's not a function of the northern hemisphere, it's a function of your latitude and the height of your latitude. So I'm not sure where you are, but let's take, for example, London. London is far further north than we are south. I'm not sure exactly what the latitudes are, but we're above the Tropic of Cancer, and there really are some nice elephant tracks. Just keep an eye out. And so we are much closer to the equator than you are. So the closer you are to the equator, the faster the sun will go down, basically. And the further away from the equator you are, obviously the longer it's going to take for the sun to go down, and the longer your twilight will be, and the bigger the difference between your winter solstice day length and your summer solstice day length will be. Thanks, Skidoo. Definitely been an elephant herd walking through here. We're going to go across to Brent while we follow this
Welcome back, everyone. We've made our way back to the Gari Dam where the Djuma Dam cam is, and you see we've got that pair of saddle-billed storks we saw catch that tilapia the other day, both fishing in the receding waters of the dam. But the main reason I came to Gari Dam was to chat about tokoloshes. So tokolosh is a very, very strong part of a lot of traditional folklore. And if I zoom into those reeds at the back of the dam towards in front of the lodge there, so you'll see there's some reeds in there, and obviously during the summer months, so hang on a second, there we go, a little bit further up, Andrew, and then zoom there. You can see those thick reeds there, and we've got water here. This would be the ideal place for a tokolosh to reside. The reason for that being it's a water sprite, and there's quite a lot of different varying legends of tokoloshes depending on the culture, and it varies a lot through Southern Africa, but the tokolosh is in all the Southern African cultures. And quite interesting, the tokolosh is in a lot of areas believed to be controlled by a single evil master, but the tokolosh has one flaw from an evil creature: it really likes children, and it's also said that the tokolosh is invisible to adults and is only visible to children. And a lot of that was a lot of thought was invisible playmates, but the children's invisible friends were the tokolosh, because adults were unable to see them, and they liked children and thought children were nice and not evil, so they never harmed children. So a tokolosh's misdeeds and whatnot were always perpetrated against an adult and never against a child. And if you are an adult and you happen to see a tokolosh, that would be very, very bad luck. And I'm trying to think how to tactfully refer to one of the tokolosh's greatest weapons, so to speak. But he's said to be very, very well endowed. In fact, it's said to wrap it around his waist twice and hang it over his shoulder. And it's said that that was his main thing, and that's why the tokolosh was very scary to a lot of women. But he was sent to commit murder by strangulation, and that's normally was the tokolosh's MO. But as I said, the tokoloshes, even if they were sent to kill a child, they couldn't bring themselves to do it. They found children so fun and wonderful and lovely that they would even disobey their masters. And it was also said that tokolosh were passed down from generation to generation. So if you had a pet tokolosh and you wanted him to be naughty things, you could then pass it on to your son or your daughter, depending whether you're male or female. But we've had a question from Pamela which sort of delves into the realm of supernatural, which we were speaking about now. And the tokolosh is definitely on the supernatural side. I spent many years as a small child in rivers and drainage lines in Africa, and I never got to see a tokolosh. But Pamela would like to know, are there any ghosts or famous ghost stories from this particular area? None that I know of offhand, Pamela, but in terms of ghosts or spirits, culturally, the ancestors play a very, very big part in the traditional culture in the area. And Sangoma, who is a witch doctor, which is not really the correct term, it's a type of traditional doctor that deals with the supernatural and the ancestors. So if you were having problems in your life, you could go consult one, you would pay them X amount, and they would roll the bones. So they'd have a little, and not only bones, but very strange little things picked up in the bush, a stone, a shiny stone, even a bottle top sometimes, and roll the bones and throw them out into a grass mat and then read what the future is. So I think very much like what we would say with fortune tellers. I think a lot of the times they're very good judges of character and readers of people, and they read off emotions and that rather than actually having the ability to see into the supernatural. But who knows? There's a lot of stuff we still don't know out there. But so you would communicate with the ancestors, and generally if things were going bad in your life, the ancestors would be upset with you. You'd done something wrong, so you would have to consult with a spiritual doctor, and then they would inform you, okay, you need to go sacrifice a goat. If that was very bad, really, really bad, you would have to sacrifice a cow, minor stuff, chickens, etc. And so that is one of the spirit sort of realms that is dealt with quite heavily here. But I'm not so sure. I definitely believe there are things out there that we don't understand, but how much of, I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever seen a ghost. Also, from the Sangoma point of view, the hyenas are often said to be the Sangoma's pets, and also owls is another one. And an owl traditionally is quite a scary animal. If it lands above your house, it's said a relative of yours is going to die. And also, like the Tokolosh, hyenas were used by the evil witch doctors to do misdeeds, to commit murders. So, very interesting stuff. And I think over the next while, James and I will definitely be delving a little bit more into traditional history and culture, and maybe focusing not so much on the serious and the evil, but doing some of the very fun, sort of tribal folklores, more specifically to deal with animals. But we have a question from Pamela in Ohio, who would like to, Alice in Ohio, who would like to know if we have any fast food restaurants in Africa. Well, Alice, we do, and we've got quite a few different types. When I was still quite a youngster, McDonald's arrived, and I think Burger King arrived in Johannesburg not so long ago. So there are, and KFC's been here forever. So in the major cities and whatnot, and even the smaller towns, there are fast food restaurants. But I'm not going to focus so much on those because I'm sure you guys see a lot more of them than I do. I'm going to focus on the more traditional African fast food restaurant that you find throughout Africa. And this will generally be in a marketplace where your buses... Sorry, just 1 second. Nope, false alarm. Where your buses and taxis and that would stop to offload passengers. And on the edge of the market there would be a thing. It's called different things all over Africa, but it basically translates to the same thing. In Tanzania and Kenya it's called nyama choma, and in South Africa it's called shisa nyama. And basically both of those mean burnt meat. So at this you would have a fire going and a grill with lots of little different pieces of goat and cow and chicken all on the grill, and you buy it, and that's your sort of fast food while you're traveling as a rural person in Africa. You're also able to get sort of maize meal and beans, so kidney beans that have been cooked for hours and hours, and always chilies. And most of these things you will find chilies. And obviously chilies, lots of reasons. It's quite good warding off disease if you eat them. But I think the most potent chili I've ever had in my life was in southern Tanzania, and they were called pilipili mbuzi, which basically means chili of the goat, and you're supposed to eat it with goat. But I thought I could handle hot food, and I took a bite of this chili, and I regretted it for about 2 days. It was, my mouth literally blistered. It was so hot. But so there's that type of fast food, and I actually really enjoy that food. Or as a friend of mine calls it, street meat. A friend from America who came out to visit, he's like, oh my god, you guys eat street meat. But generally once you've cooked everything and you get rid of all the germs and whatnot that could possibly be there. And going along with these sort of nyama choma restaurants or shisa nyama restaurants, if you go even more rural, they set up sometimes only once or twice a week or even a month in very rural areas where there's not a lot of livestock, and it'll be under the butcher tree. And literally the butcheries in these rural village is a tree, where once you've killed the cow, you're able to string it up, and then you literally walk up and buy, that cow's been dead a minute, and you can buy a piece of meat that's been chucked off. And then delicacies like liver and kidneys and stuff are cut and heart taken straight out, chopped into bits and waxed straight on a fire, and you can buy that while you're waiting for the butcher who is chopping up a piece of meat for you with a machete. So there is fast food, but quite different. And then there's obviously always the conventional fast food as well. Hi, Rudy and Josh. Rudy and Josh would like to know whether I ever fish in these water holes, and what type of fish are there other than catfish. Well, Rudy, there's tilapia, and there'll be a few minnow species. I'm not sure exactly on the minnow species. The tilapia species in here, you'll have tilapia rindali, which is a red-chested tilapia. And the one we saw the saddleballs eating the other day was a Mozambique tilapia, Tilapia mozambiquense, believe it or not. Nice, easy one. But we don't really fish, not the best fishing in these water holes. When I was further south, I used to fish quite often in the Sand River on my off days, and we caught little tigerfish and low-felt, large-scale yellowfish and low-felt largemouth, which is a type of, it's sort of related to the tilapia species, but it's a saranchromis, which means it's a predatory bream, and it's got a big mouth like a bass in America, and so it's a very predatory little fish. I used to use ultralight tackle. I used to use my 2/8 1-ounce fly rod. As the fish didn't get particularly big in the river, so it was more fun to catch them on light tackle. But we're going to leave you with one last view of our feathered friends, the saddle-billed stork. And while we do that, we're going to pass you over to Commander Bond, who is with a different feathered friend. And I'm sure that feathered friend is not standing knee-deep in the mud and is probably nice and high and dry. So off to James, and we will see you a little later in the drive.
Welcome back to Jiggy, everybody. I believe you've been talking about the Togoloshi with Brent and various other what sound like fairly fascinating things. You're looking at there a magnificent Batalier eagle, otherwise known as the short-tailed eagle, and he was sitting until very recently in the company of a tawny eagle. Now those two birds are known to be carrion eaters, much like vultures, except they get to the carcasses before the vultures do, because they're smaller, they're more nimble. The Batalier especially is able to fly a lot lower down than the vultures. The tawny was on a tree just behind us, beautifully framed in the gold, but alas, he flew off. I'm not really sure why he flew off. I was pretty sure he was going to stay still. They're often an indicator that there might be a kill around, so I can't smell anything, nor can I hear the crunching of bones, and we'll drive through the area quite slowly, but I don't think there's a huge amount going on. I think it's fairly coincidental. Just a really nice shot of them sitting silhouetted against the early evening sky. The Batalier is one of our sort of quintessential Kruger Park birds, only occur in protected areas, and they're pretty endangered. I think they're listed as vulnerable, if not listed as endangered. And for some reason only occur in protected areas. They don't occur anywhere where there's farmland. And that's probably got largely to do with the amount of chemicals there are in and around the soil, and I think they get trapped. You know, if they kill anything, they just get trapped and butchered. Beautiful birds. Iconic Kruger Park site, the Batalier, and certainly one of my favorite birds. And they live up to 40 years, you know, so that bird's probably got a story or two to tell. All right, with that beautiful picture, we're going to head on. You may lose our signal here. I'm very sorry if you do. We are going through a bit of a dodgy area, but you'll pick us up the other side. Beautiful giraffe. Look at that. Sorry about the lack of signal there, but marvelous sight of a giraffe silhouetted against the night sky. And that's a giraffe cow who I actually think I saw yesterday. She looks quite similar. Gendre's turning giraffe silhouettes into something of a speciality. Not quite as impressive when she doesn't lift her head, but look at that. Oh. Just try and listen to the sound of her legs moving. And as Brent was talking quite a lot about sort of cultural beliefs probably in this area, it sounds like that's what he was on about. Giraffes, and giraffes' tails specifically, highly sought after by traditional healers as fly swats. And you won't be able to see why now, but they've got long hair, just like a sort of horse's tail. Highly effective at swatting flies off themselves. Very important function that they have. All tails of animals out here. Beautiful. Alright, we'll just push on. That will stop here, and there she is. Sorry about that jerk, Gendre. Now she's just across the northern boundary, but of course we can look at her, which is rather nice. Difficult time of night for a giraffe, because they're very vulnerable when they can't see properly, and their sight is hugely important. The most thorny of thorns. It's getting pretty dark in here, out here. She's not being particularly good about putting her head against the sky. Oi! Never seen a giraffe eat such a low head position. That's not true. I've actually seen a giraffe graze, but that was in Ireland, in an animal park. Beautiful. The only sounds you can hear are her feeding. And the drongos all around. And pretty soon, I've just seen the first bat of the evening. Pretty soon you'll be able to hear the odd nightjar. Perhaps a barred owl or a white-faced owl going doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. And perhaps the first roar of a lion. But right now all is peace. Wonderful sound of the giraffe eating. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the same cow we saw yesterday. She was on her own. I've told you that they're quite social, but this one seems to be particularly antisocial. I think we'll leave her to her food, and we'll head on up the road into that incredibly coloured sky and see what we can find. Good idea to put some lights on. Get hold of my spotlight, which isn't plugged in. Stand by. we'll just use the vehicle lights for now. And that's the sky I get to look at every night. Does feel a certain sense of privilege. Ashley and Darby, you like to hear about the atmosphere, and that's what I've just tried to describe, and thank you for that. You're obviously a kindred spirit who enjoys the sense that the wilderness gives you. It's supposed to be about 23 degrees Celsius at the moment. I don't think it's quite that. I think it's dropped probably to around about a very comfortable 19, especially up here on the crests, but chillier down in the dips, and that's about 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, just to see what the smoke has done to that horizon. Totally moonless sky. No, it's not. There's the moon. I just spotted it. Didn't think it should be moonless. It's a half moon. I'm just going to stop once more to tell you something, mainly because it's an excuse to look at the sky and the mountains beyond. You can see the basalt cliffs there of the Drakensberg. But I'm stopping here mainly to explain something quickly. On the ridge crests where we're sitting now, and temperature is around about probably a fairly pleasant 19 degrees. Down in that dip in front of us, when we go, we'll start to head downhill fairly soon. The temperature, I reckon, will drop about 4 or 5 degrees, and that's because of a phenomenon called katabatic flow. And katabatic flow is the flow of air once the sun sort of dips down, and the hot air tends to come up and rise up the slopes, and leaving a lot of cool, much chillier air down in the dips and the drainage lines. And in the mornings, that, like where Jeandre and I were driving around this morning in the dips, it was very cold, and that's where it will be coldest tomorrow morning when we go out on our drive. Stunning pictures those, thank you, Jeandre. And we're just going to go down now. You'll probably hear me start to shiver. They're really pretty good temperatures for midwinter. You can feel the warm breeze coming up, and then about halfway down you feel the cold air start to blow in. It's not too bad. We're going to go quickly across then to find a jackal, and we may see you later.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we are with a side-striped jackal. There's actually a pair out in the quarantine clearing. See how it's checking for termites, which play quite an important part in their diet. He comes past the terminalia. Where did the second one disappear to? There we go. So, defecating will play a part in marking territory with, like most of your carnivores. Quite nice, we're seeing them regularly on quarantine at the moment. The last poor side-striped jackal I saw on quarantine got eaten by quarantine. Just go forward a bit, catch them around the other side. There's loop ahead. There's one, there's the other. Just set that back in just here. There it is. So there's a little bush baby who's just seen these side-striped jackal, and I could hear him alarm calling this tiny little tip, tip, tip. Oh, he's on the... Can't catch him now. Oh, he's coming to us. He jumped nearly right to us. Where'd he go now? There he is. See him, Andrew? Yes. Just hiding behind the branch there. There he is, poking his head out. So he saw those jackal, and I just heard him alarming. Tip, 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 tip. Maybe if I move... Oh no, he's got a face on a jump. Come on, little guy. It's amazing if you listen what the bush tells you. So I knew that there was a bush baby behind me. I heard this tiny little alarm call from the bush baby spotting the jackal. We might move out into the open shortly. You see them starting to look like that. It means they're getting ready to jump. See how they look up and they check everywhere, looking for that right branch that they can leap to. I'm just going to try and move the vehicle a little bit. Oops. You see where he went?
I lost him.
Oh, there he is. Just hiding in the shadow. Oh, very fast. Heading out on their nocturnal forage. Gone into a bit of a thicker scrub. We'll just have a quick look. Nope. Where'd you go, little guy? Oh, anyway, nice to actually get to see him like that, quite close to the vehicle. But looks like he's done a despairing act. Let's see if we can catch up with those foraging side-striped jackal. Who knows what other treasures the quarantine clearings might produce for us this evening. I'm hoping we might see a white-tailed mongoose as well. Seen a very relaxed white-tailed mongoose on quarantine a couple of nights ago. of the reasons the side-striped jackals like this open area is because it gives them the chance to see potential predators from afar. There's, we caught up with the jackals. Be really exciting if this pair decide to breed on the clearings, and we are blessed with some little pups to view. And jackal pups in an open area like this with relaxed adults like this will become super relaxed little pups, and they are very, very cute jackal pups. Just making sure we're not going to miss a white-tailed mongoose or something else interesting. Hello, jackalas. Hi, Pamela. Pamela says she's heard that bush babies can be quite temperamental and mean, so quite the opposite of cute. And they can be when they're arguing with other bush babies. They can actually have very aggressive fights. They defend territories against other family groups of bush babies. And one of the things that's probably not so cute about a bush baby is one of the ways that they scent mark their territory. Oh, there's a zebra behind. Is that they will actually pee on their feet purposely, and what that does is help spread the urine further as they move through the trees during the evening, and spreads their scent further and further. So obviously it helps to scent mark more and more of their home range. And they can bite quite painfully. I mean, they are great feeders on little insects. Oh, jackal taking a break. Should we have a check where the other one is? Disappeared all the way down there behind the bush. We're just going to try reposition the vehicle again. So I've seen and had a few pet bush babies over the years. The one thing they are for certain, as a pet, they are very hard work. Obviously, being a nocturnal species, when you want to go to bed is when they wake up, and quite a shocking experience at 3 o'clock in the morning to have a little creature leap onto your face. And I know it has given a few friends of mine some very big frights when they've come to visit. Oh, Mangawan. So, the Shanghai name for jackal is Mangawan, and the Zulu name for jackal is Mpogush. Now, when I was a little boy at Pinda Private Game Reserve, certain of the staff members used to call me Mpogush, the little jackal, because I used to try get titbits out of the kitchen constantly, and I was always running around causing mischief. And in a lot of traditional stories, jackals are the mischief makers. Hi, Sherry from Colorado. Sherry would like to know if African jackals are a distant relative of the American coyote. Most certainly, Sherry. They are one of the part of the dog family, so Canis, so they would share the same genus name. So a distant relative, but a relative most definitely. So patrolling the quarantine clearings in search of a meal. So remember, we chatted a little bit about how side-striped jackals, a couple of safaris ago, are quite the omnivore. So did both disappear behind the same? There we go. There's an ear popping out. Are quite the omnivore, and they feed a lot of termites and insects and vegetable matter, and less so off meat. And when they do feed off meat, it's normally small mice, scrub hares very occasionally, but a very, very versatile animal, the side-striped jackal. Also, quite the predators of ground nesting birds. I'm just going to peep forward a little bit. I just want to check one last spot on quarantine where I have seen the white-tailed mongoose regularly in the last little while. So I know there's some lapwings here in quarantine that have very small babies, and the jackals would definitely try, or white-tailed mongoose would try take advantage of those lapwings. But lapwings are quite protective parents, and they would attack the jackals constantly to try keep them away from the area where the babies might be. It doesn't look like there's any white-tailed mongoose around this evening. Have a lapwing. There's the jackal. So jackal are quite a crepuscular species. For those who are not sure what crepuscular means, it means most active at dusk and dawn. And there we go, the jackal's about to disappear, and the next one is coming through. That's why we have a last look at these side-striped jackal. As they head off into some slightly thicker bush from the clearings to try get a meal. It's been wonderful having you on this sunset safari. Although we haven't seen a lot of the big hairies and scaries, we have seen some wonderful different sightings. And I mean, these side-striped jackal have been particularly special. And it's been wonderful to have you. And I mean, what better job in the world could we ask for? And it really is a privilege and a pleasure being able to take you out and share our passion with Africa and develop new conservationists out there. And from all of us here at Wild Earth, it's been an absolutely fantastic day. Even though we didn't see all the big hairies and scaries, we had that absolutely incredible sighting on last sunset safari of Karula, the queen of Djuma, and Mvula coming through and stealing her kill. And we got to see how agile leopards really are. As she leapt over his body in that high jackalberry and then came down the tree to escape any aggression from Mvula as he stole what was left of her bushbuck carcass. So really, really great. And one of the wonderful things about the bush is that every day everything changes. So there's always something new to see, always something new to learn. I know James and myself are constantly learning, and we always try and get there, get the books, try read more. And I don't think you can ever truly learn everything about the bush, because the moment you think you do, the bush will turn around and teach you a very big lesson. So I've got a message for Gracie from the Dayton Children's Home. The next time she's watching, James says you need to let him know, and she will have the honor of naming Bob's girlfriend. Bob the Bachelor has seemed to find himself a beau at Buffelshoek Dam. So Gracie, you better be watching soon so you can name Bob's girlfriend. Thanks very much to all our regular viewers, and obviously a really warm welcome to all our new viewers. It's wonderful to be able to take you guys out on a safari, and an incredible experience that wherever you're sitting in the world, you're able to view what's happening here on the southern tip of Africa, in the middle of the Lowveld, in a 3.5 million hectare wilderness. So incredible and absolutely amazing. And for the last little minute we're going to have a look at this last sort of light on the horizon as the dusk disappears, and it's time for the nocturnal animals to take over, and it's now the time of the nocturnal predator and all the other little nocturnal critters like porcupines and things that are going to come out. So from all of us here at Wild Earth, thanks very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you all bright and early for the sunrise safari. Have a wonderful evening.